this is a tricky one in that, you're told how difficult this profession is. Speaking specifically as someone who works in musical theatre, it's difficult enough as it is. And when you experience certain things in our industry, or you see certain things happen, it's the age-old saying that, you're often scared to say anything because you don't want to be deemed a troublemaker.
The main reason, I think, in the past has been I don't like confrontation. And I guess it's that human fear of the status quo. It takes quite a lot of guts to just go in and do something or say something regardless of how other people are going to react.
Or to be, put in that category of, the angry black man or the angry black woman, which you hear bandied around quite a lot. So, I mean, to be honest with you, in the past, I've not really said much. Certain things have happened in the past, but I've often not said anything because I've often been scared of what the repercussions might be.
The times that I have seen other people speak up about it, they are usually gaslit, or they are really interrogated about whether the thing that they think is racist is actually racist, or whether it's down to perspective. Or there is a sense that it might actually jeopardise or impact your career or your relationships, or you might be perceived as being difficult or tricky, or a troublemaker. And so for those reasons and many more, it just hasn't been fashionable, let's say, to speak up.
I have felt, as much as I wanted to say something, there's that fear that if you say it, especially being a black woman, if you say it, you come across a certain way. You can come across aggressive, you can come across rude, you can come across sassy.
People are so easy to say that you're using this so-called race card, or that you're being a victim, especially when it comes to issues regarding race. I have found it difficult at times to speak about that because you're nervous of how people will react to you and how it will affect your job, your career, how it will affect your time in the show, play, musical that you're doing.
So you silence yourself in those spaces as much as you don't want to. However, there have been other experiences where I have said something, especially my drama school experience. That was a really hard time. I did speak out, and then they just don't listen.
Racism is a really, really uncomfortable thing, and lots of people like to ignore it. And that is really how systemic racism has been able to thrive, because of complicitness, because of apathy, because of ignorance, or because people just do not want to confront the issue. And if you look at a huge group of people or an industry who doesn't want to confront the issue, that disempowers you, and you are essentially muted.
Well, in the past, I have always felt that it's my place to speak up and be honest and speak my truth about my journey and my colleagues' journeys in this industry and throughout life in this country. I've never really taken heed of being silenced or not feeling like it's not the appropriate place, because I don't like injustice.
I know that there are people who won't want to work with me because I have privately challenged them about structures that are in place, or privately challenged them about their response to something that I saw happen.
I feel when I have spoken out in the past, I feel like maybe I've had the few, the eyes rolling, or I'm that one, I'm the mouthy one, or I'm not problematic, or maybe not trouble, but maybe slightly problematic, or the angry black woman. I got called angry one time, and luckily actually quite a few people around me turned around and for me and with me and said, it's not that I'm angry, I'm passionate, there's a difference.
And I know that is happening with a lot of black women in the arts that are doing a quiet job of challenging people. But I also know that people don't like it.
What's sad is that, there's a lot of people that don't feel like they can do that. And actually, what's also sad on top of that is that when you see somebody who speaks up, and that in speaking up, they are risking so much.
I have spoken up about it more in this moment, and I feel that George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, all of the people that we have lost have forced us, thankfully, into a place where we are able to open up this huge dialogue and to confront the issue. And it has exposed more racism than I think anybody really, well, not people of colour, but it has surprised lots of people about what has been able to persist or exist. And I think it's a time that we should all feel that we have permission to speak.
I think when it comes to speaking up about injustices in this industry, me personally, I am a bit of a contradiction, because I think that there are a lot of people speaking up and speaking their truth. I have done the same. There was a moment where I felt like I needed to speak about a really traumatic event that happened to me on a play that I was doing. And it wasn't because I felt like, oh, now's the time. It was because they were putting out this statement sort of for everyone to sort of see about how committed they were to anti-racism, and I knew that that wasn't true, and I kind of was really frustrated about the lie that was being just put out there. And so I felt like I needed to just speak a truth into a moment. And what you were seeing now is a lot more people speaking their truth, and a lot of people going, everyone should speak out now. And I'm kind of the mindset that everyone should do what they need to do for themselves to feel free.
But what's interesting is, if we're going to make a change, who are you speaking to? So do you know what? I'm just going to speak up now. I can't wait for people to come to me. I can't wait for, thinking, oh God, if I have this argument again, I'm going to have a bad reputation. That's how we work. As much as our talent gets us jobs, your reputation gets you jobs. No one wants to work with anyone that you go, oh, they're really difficult. Why would someone give you the job? So that's where I come from anyway. I'm preserving my career, but also to what cost? So at the end of the day, if I've got to start taking pins out and throwing them so that I can walk in a room, look you in the eye and give you the respect that I think I deserve back, that's all I'm asking for. And unfortunately, there's a lot of talk and there seems to be very little action sometimes.
I think it's so important that we do speak up, and I definitely will from this point on, regardless of feeling like you're going to be judged for it.
Personally, I've had a decision to make in myself, because I've always known about oppression. I've always felt it. I've always been very aware, acutely aware of how I am judged, how I am seen, but it was just the way things were. Going forward, that's not good enough now. Not for me. And I know a lot of other black people it's not good enough for. No, I'm not just gonna go along because that's the way things are. No.
If there's injustice, if there's issue, I have to say something. I just have to. For the people who don't feel like they can, I totally understand it. But if I'm in a cast with you and you feel that way, I will say it.
Irrevocably, things aren't going to be the same again in my life. I'm not going to go back to just ignore it, just pretend it's not happening, just accept it. I'm not. I'm going to demand difference, or I'm going to invoke and force change. I am, in my circumstances and who I come in contact with, and I'm actively going to seek out other black people and support other black people on purpose, so that I don't feel alone and they don't feel alone, and that there's some solace within us as a people, and we aren't just wandering aimlessly around accepting the way things are.
I think what's different now, it becomes a bit easier to be heard because people are becoming more and more aware. And in terms of us as an industry, we really need to work harder to amplify women's voices, especially women of colour, because it's really, really hard to have that if you're experiencing something, to, I think, just speak up and then know that you're supported. So I think in terms of that, that's why this movement is really, I think, going to push things forward, because we have allies now, whereas before maybe people wanted to be but didn't know how to, or were afraid themselves. So I think as long as we have people behind us, it shouldn't continue to be a problem.
For me, for our allies and the building of allyship, it isn't, you know, I've heard quite a few times people saying, well, I'm not looking for an ally and I'm looking for an accomplice, because if I get into trouble, I want you to get into trouble too, or I want you to feel like we're doing this together because I'm your sister and you're my sister, you're my brother, you're my sibling, and you're as angry as I am, you know? You're as frustrated and as angry as I am, and we share that together.
The industry is still so broken. And things like this, BLACKSTAGE is fantastic because it's providing transparency and openness and communication. But we're not doing it for us, ultimately, as cathartic as it may be. This and the platforms like this and conversations such as what we're having now need to be compulsory for companies, white people, white companies, white creatives, white production teams, to listen to, engage with. It's as hard as it may be for them because, you know, we're calling them out. And this isn't everyone. We have incredible allies across the industry, but this isn't the time or the place to celebrate that. We need to shine a light on the ineptitude of the industry and how it's failed us for so long.
I don't know, it just sort of feels, at least for me personally, it feels like that sort of something has sort of cracked open and that it would be wrong not to just sort of like, just to let it spill, and whether that's sort of me through this medium to you, but also just with other people, we can now speak sort of uncensored, and it's weird to sort of think that I have to use the word uncensored, but that's sort of the way that I had been like navigating my life and this industry, like the fact that bringing these sort of things up and being able to express my feelings about them, we were having to censor ourselves because we were constantly, at least me, like you're in fear of rocking the boat.
I have to do something because this is affecting me, but it might affect other people. I think before I didn't realize how your silence could be placating someone, like it could be encouraging behavior. I don't know why I always thought it was just like this separate thing, but actually it grows and it can become toxic to like all of my community. So now I feel like I can speak up in other ways that will kind of like look after myself as an artist, but also like hold people accountable again.